A slow start dooms the Bucs against the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles. Today we're going to take your calls and react to the Buccaneers' first loss of the season. They fall to 3-1 with a couple of big games on their schedule over the next few weeks. All of that and more on today's post-game show here on the Cannon Fire Podcast.
I want to hear cannons. Downfield, pull up, ball to the 5, touchdown Tampa Bay. Mike Evans does it again. Fire the cannons, Bucs.
It's first and goal. That's picked off. And who else? Rondé Barber. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers may ride to the Super Bowl with that one.
Third down, 18. Dropping Gannon, looking Gannon. Those up with a head. Intercepted. At the 40. Derek Brooks 30. Brooks to the 25, 20. Derek Brooks all the way. There it is. The dagger's in. We're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the cannons come. Fire them. Keep on firing them. Keep on firing them.
A safety on the final snap of the game makes it a 31-25 ball game. Your Tampa Bay Buccaneers fall short. Although they delivered an entertaining second-half rally, it just was not enough to overcome some of those mistakes in the first half. And there were a few back-breaking mistakes in the second half. We're going to break that down and much more, as we said. Welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, joined alongside me, as always, my good buddy and co-host from BucsNation.com, Mr. Evan Wanish. The Bucs are 3-1, Evan, and I think the most important thing is that nobody overreacts, right? I think that there is certainly no shame in losing to this Eagles team, and to be completely honest with you, I think there's a lot of merit in the way that the Buccaneers willed themselves back into the game here in the third and fourth quarter. Some costly mistakes, too much down the stretch, but we've said that before. You can't beat these top-tier NFL teams with self-inflicted mistakes like we saw more than a few times today. But the Bucs certainly made it a game for everybody in attendance, and we certainly appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, look, we'll get into it, but to keep it short, my overall thought is I actually feel better about this team now than I did heading into the game. Which, after a loss, first loss of the season isn't really something, like after the first loss of the season last year, like I wasn't feeling that way, because, they went in and Denver sort of handled them pretty well, and sort of like, oh, maybe they're not as good as you hoped, or but just the way this game went, right, and getting smacked in the mouth immediately, pretty much, right off the bat against Super Bowl champions or defending Super Bowl champions in a big time matchup, and then just take blow after blow after blow and still come back and almost tie the game. And a couple opportunities here and there, like you mentioned. We'll get into it, right? You made too many mistakes, right? Just too many mistakes early, late, just too many to beat a really good team. You might be able to get away with that against the New York Jets or against the Houston Texans or Atlanta Falcons. Like, you can get away with some of those, right? We've seen the Bucs get away because the 3 games they played have not been perfect. Like, they haven't been just completely dominating. But against a really good team like the Eagles, it's not going to work, right? You can't afford that many, and the Bucs just had one too many, and but I feel good about it just because the way they fought and because it could have very easily just said, hey, this is 24-6.
Let's get out of here healthy.
Yeah, exactly. This didn't go our way. Oh well, we're not healthy. Woe is me. This and that. We'll just pack it up, but instead, they ended up fighting back and made things really interesting, and like I said, nearly tied the game. So yeah, I feel actually a good bit better, right? Obviously, they got to get healthy, but I do feel pretty decent about it, which after a loss is definitely something that isn't as common.
Yeah, and we've talked a lot this season so far about the hits this team has already taken, right? You lose Cody Mauch for the year. You lose Kalijah Cansey for the year. Now you're looking at Mike Evans not playing for a couple of weeks. You don't get Gedeke back for a couple of weeks. And then the hits kept coming throughout the course of this game. Let's just list off the guys that left with injury. Talk about Benjamin Morrison, Jamel Dean, Tyke Smith, Hassan Reddick, all at one point leaving this game. Bucky Irving went down and kind of had to jog off of the field under his own power. Scary moment.
Gaines ended up leaving with a peck. So Dean leaves. Morrison comes in. Morrison actually plays well. I thought Morrison played really well. I thought the
Absolutely.
Bucs secondary overall played pretty well for the most part. And then Morrison gets hurt. So yeah, it's literally like, now Hassan Reddick, I believe, told Pure Report that he's hoping to just, it's kind of like a stinger of sorts in his neck. So
Yeah.
hoping that he's going to be able to practice and be fine. So hopefully none of these are long term. The only one I might be a little worried about is possibly Dean and Gaines. And the two reasons for that is those guys were ruled out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Like the other guys, they were like questionable and they were like, okay, some aren't going to come back. The other Dean and Gaines, though, were kind of ruled out more quickly. So that leads me to be a little bit concerned that maybe it's a little more serious. We'll see, though.
Yeah, and it's no secret about Jamel Dean. He's been one of the Buccaneers' top players in the secondary so far this season. A guy who has really needed a strong season. I know that he gets overhated by a lot of the fans, but he's been off to a tear. They introduced him today, by the way, as Mr. Pick Six.
Really?
Jamel Dean. Yeah, they have some like cutesy PA voiceover stuff they do for some of the guys, like Emeka Ibuka. They wouldn't say his last name. They would just say Emeka, and then the crowd would say Ibuka, and then they would say Emeka again, and the crowd would, kind of join in. I think that one's got to catch on a little bit. But Mr. Pick Six took me by
That's
surprise.
not going to catch on.
And then and then they kept calling Chris Godwin, I think, the Master. Like every time he made a catch, they were giving him like nicknames. Like if I heard correctly, they kept saying the Master, Chris Godwin Jr. And like that was, again, kind of out of left field. But I guess they're having some fun with it. Overall, when we talk about this game, again, phone lines are open. We would love to hear from you guys. The information going to be on your screen down there at the bottom. 305-224-1968. And the meeting ID, to be completely honest with you, I got to wait for it to come back around again. So this game for Tampa Bay, really, a tale of two halves.
Yes.
You end the first half with a little bit of juice. We did witness the longest field goal in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history. We will talk about that. But outside of that, very little in terms of overall excitement in that first half. It felt like a good old-fashioned ass whooping pretty quickly. And I think that blocked punt was the first misstep of many. But we got to talk about the special teams unit before we get to Money Mac. We got to talk about the blocked punt. This is the third week in a row that special teams, I mean, really, it seems like every single week you could look at some incident on special teams that has put the Bucs in a compromising
technically,
position.
it's every game. Chase missed the 2 in Atlanta, so technically every game. But the third straight game where they've had a blocked punt or a field goal, the second straight game where it's led to a touchdown.
Yeah, so it puts you in a hole very quickly, and it's just one of those plays, man. What is your overall takeaway? Because again, we know that Bucs fans can be a reactionary bunch. People are ready to fire the special teams coordinator. And I do have to say, his track record isn't great. The last few teams he was on were not very good in the special teams categories either. They were some of the worst teams in the NFL. But I don't know. Certainly, it seems like something is going to have to change here moving forward. The Bucs have to go back to the drawing board in a sense when it comes to punting the ball away.
Yeah, I mean, look, and we talk about this with any sort of coaching thing, right? It's partly execution, it's partly coaching. The execution part of it. The Bucs, the long snapper, I think it's Evan Deckers, just gets beat clean. I mean, he just got beat, and that's the guy who ended up blocking the punt. So, like, that's execution, right? However, it's happened now. Again, when you have it happen, have a blocked field goal or punt 3 weeks in a row, you're doing something wrong. Like clearly something, whether it's your blocking assignments or your formations or just the way you're doing things is clearly something's off. And they got to fix it because you can't just keep walking this tightrope every single game where you're holding your breath for a punt. Like you're almost hoping like the opposing team doesn't try and block it because they send like a bunch, sometimes different teams do different coverages and stuff like that. Sometimes they don't really try to block it. Because then if you try and block it, as many guys down there to block. But, you're almost hoping like they just sort of sit back because if there's any semblance of an attempt at a block, it's going to be darn close. And I had actually said in the Bucs Nation, the Q&A we do with, the opposing team site, it was with Bleeding Green Nation this week. And they had asked me an underrated, strength and underrated weakness. And I answered it. I said, the underrated strength, I think, is the secondary. And I said, the underrated weakness, I don't even think is underrated anymore because it's become such an issue. And I said special teams. And I actually said, I would bet there's a decent chance that the Eagles are able to make a big play on special teams at some point in this game. And it happened right away. And you want to talk about letting the air out of the tire, basically. I mean, that's got to be demoralizing. You come out in a big game, a lot of energy, and 3 minutes in, you're down 7-0, and it wasn't really anything your offense or defense did. It was, your special teams, which is supposed to be pretty, tightened up, and it certainly has not been to start the year.
Yeah, and as far as the rest of the afternoon for Riley Dixon, just another one to forget, really. His second punt after that was only 40 yards, and then after that was the egregious shank, right?
I wonder. We talk about, I remember, because you talked about, right, last week with Chase McLaughlin getting the field goal blocked, coming back, mentally,
Yeah.
right? I wonder if that's a mental thing, kind of, right?
Yeah.
Like, is that a mental error because you've had 2 of your last 3 games, you had a punt blocked?
Well, now you're trying to be quick. Now you're, hurrying up through your motion. You're like, oh, it's clearly got to be something I'm doing wrong. I'm hanging onto the ball too long. So you're rushing. And nobody's necessarily good at their job when they're trying to rush their way through it. So, that's a very valid point.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's and I don't know it. I don't know the quick fix, right? I mean, firing a special teams coordinator, they may not. I don't know. But like it's not gonna magically turn everything just like great. Riley Dixon does have a slow windup. He does. That's something they're gonna have to work with, whether it's having him stand back, an extra yard or 2, or whatever it may be. They're gonna have to correct it somehow. But that's one thing, but the blocks are another thing. You can't have blocked field goals, you can't have blocked punts, blocked extra points. Like you can't have those because those things cost you, and they cost the Bucs today. The Bucs lost by 6, but technically 8. If you take that touchdown away, it's a whole different game. I was sitting there pretty much almost the entire first half. I was like, man, it's 17 or like 21-3 or whatever, but like it should be like 14 because of like if you just are competent enough on special teams, that doesn't happen, right? And as we saw later in the game, it ended up mattering. So, there's too many mistakes, and we'll get into the other ones. But that was the first big one, right? Right off the bat, find yourself in a hole against a team that really isn't going to make too many mental mistakes like that. They're not going to make many mistakes on special teams. Something like that. They may allow a big return, which the Bucs had success with today, but they're not going to have a blocked punt or have a blocked field goal return for a touchdown. They clean those things up, and the Buccaneers just have not found an answer for that yet.
On the Buccaneers defense, I think there are some points in today's game that you can look at the defense absolutely keeping the Buccaneers in this game. Later on, you get the Bucky Irving fumble. You get the Baker Mayfield interception. They were kind of dealt the shit end of the stick there towards the latter half of this game when the Bucs were absolutely clawing their way back into it. And at one point, I felt confident about them going down the field, scoring it up, making it a tie game. They would have had to convert the 2-point conversion at that time, but I was expecting them to keep cooking. And you just had these mistakes, these drive killers. But I do think we have to address the first half solely because it is a tale of two halves. And that team in the first half, we know that the Buccaneers are too good to start like that every single week. But I think the concerning part, really, Todd Bowles was able to make his adjustments and they looked good. But in that first half, Evan, it looked like Philly was doing whatever the hell they wanted. And there was just little to no resistance along the way. I mean, Jalen Hurts especially breaking containment, extending plays with his legs. He led the Eagles in rushing today. They sold out on Saquon Barkley, and I thought they did okay. 19 carries for 43 yards. He's averaging 2.3 a tote. He did find the end zone, but Jalen Hurts averaging 7 yards a carry, 9 carries for 62. And the Eagles are used to winning ugly games. So, I mean, they don't really care about the stat line at the end of the day. They were making it happen, and the Bucs had nothing for it in that first half.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Eagles they're not going to beat themselves, right? Um, whether it's turnovers, and that's really one of the differences too, right? Bucks in the second half, yeah, sure, they almost had to come back in the second half or whatever, and we're the better team, but they also had two turnovers in the second half. The Eagles didn't. That ends up being a difference as well, especially in a one-score game when you have two turnovers, and essentially put 7 points up on the board for the Eagles is the fumble, and then takes potentially at least three away from you, with the Baker Mayfield interception. So yeah, I mean, I thought the defense in the first half, I thought Bowles was getting cooked by Kevin Patullo,
Yeah.
the Eagles offensive coordinator. I thought and I was a little bit optimistic because of the second half adjustments we hear about, and not you hear about with Todd Bowles. And, so I was like, okay, maybe the defense will be a little bit better in the second half. I just didn't really think the offense was going to be able to move the ball much. So I wasn't really confident in the comeback. But in the first half, I mean, it just seemed like the Eagles had an answer for everything. The blitzes were being picked up. The blitzes, they had beaters on those guys out in the flat that were open. Quick throws, get the ball out quick because they know, like Jalen Hurts knows that what the issues have been, with Todd Bowles' defense and stuff. So they were really good at recognizing the blitzes, beating them, and like I said, just kind of getting out in front of that. And the Bucs are also, they had a lot of trouble containing Jalen Hurts, and that was a big thing as well. Like you mentioned, his stats there. There was multiple times where the Bucs almost had him, and they just leaks out, and they've had trouble with that all year. It's just Hurts is probably like the best quarterback they faced yet, and he made him pay for it. So obviously, you're not going to play a guy like him every single week, but in today's NFL, a lot of these quarterbacks can scramble. Like, most of them can, right? You're not playing against Tom Brady out there where like, yeah, like he's he's gonna stay in the pocket, like, or Peyton Manning, or like, yeah, sure, but like these guys are gonna be able to move, and the Bucs defense has just not been able all season to really contain. So I thought it was a rough first half. It was definitely a rough first half, and actually, this is the courtesy of Pewter Report here. This was at the half, and so this is the Eagles' total yards were 201. The Bucs' total yards were 99. The Eagles' yards per play was 7.2, and the Bucs' yards per play were 3.1. So the Eagles are up, 24-6 at the half. So, and Bowles even said in his press conference, I think he led, with his press conference, that you can't essentially, you can't spot a team 14 points, especially a team that good, and expect to win. I mean, they're the defending Super Bowl champions for a reason, and you're letting them go up 14-0, before you know it. That's gonna be a tough one to come back from. So yeah, I thought the defense. I mean, look, they picked it up in the second half, and kudos to them because it's not possible. Like the entire, almost comeback is not possible without the defense. Like it's just not. And Josh Capo, has some stats here. He said throwing out the last drive, this was how the Bucs defense performed in the second half. The Eagles had 7 drives. They had 6 punts. They had 19 yards, 2.7 yards per drive allowed, and 0.7 yards per play allowed. So, like, that's a dominant performance on defense in the second half there. And again, that's why it was possible for them to be able to almost come back. The only difference is, you'd like to see a turnover, but hey, I mean, if the offense plays a clean game as well, maybe we're having a different discussion, but they didn't. But I mean, it was a tale of two halves for the Bucs, but especially the defensive side of the ball, because I thought it was going to be a really long day for the entire game at some point here, when it was just like the Eagles were doing pretty much whatever they wanted to do, and the Bucs didn't really seem to have an answer.
100%. And I'm going to also say this about the Bucs defense, just moving forward. Because when you look at the game today, I think one of the largest problems and really what led to a lot of those explosive plays from Philly, and Jalen Hurts in particular, was just the pass rush not being there when it needed to. You get a couple of sacks in the second half, really fire the people up. But, I mean, for the most part, Hassan Reddick was somewhat quiet today. Yaya Diaby seemed like he was quiet today. And not to say that those guys have been bad. Like, it's not like I'm coming on here and saying that, we need more out of these guys, because you know what? They've been okay. And the Eagles have a damn good offensive line. That's one of the better offensive lines you're going to go up against in the NFL this season when you look at the rest of their schedule. But Evan, I'd like to gauge your thoughts on this. Do you think the Bucs are in a position here with Greg Gaines now going down, practice squad players going down, Kalijah Cansey's out for the year? I have a feeling they're not going to do it, but everyone is calling for them to do it, and I think the smart move would be to do it. I think one of the glaring issues right now, maybe outside of the linebacker room, I would love for the Buccaneers before the deadline to just try and get somebody halfway decent to fill up that interior and help out Vita Vea. Because if you lose Greg Gaines to a torn pec, who has been balling and eating up snaps these last several years, I mean, you really do start to worry about putting that much pressure on Yaya Diaby and Hassan Reddick to carry this pass rush week in and week out. And last week they were dynamic against the Jets, but this week it didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to be playing the Jets in the playoffs. You're going to be playing a team like the Eagles in the playoffs. So.
Right.
At
It
the
helps
end of
that
the
we
day,
have, like, it certainly
Sure.
helps that we have guys in the secondary that can hit the QB, but it's just there's teams that are going to prepare for that better than others, and this week was not a good week for that.
Yeah, I thought, the 4-man pass rush I thought wasn't really there. Again, their run defense was good, but like their run defense is always going to be good. Like I'm more so surprised when their run defense struggles than when it's actually good. So I just sort of expect that. I don't really expect teams to consistently run all over Tampa. So I mean, look, I think they do need a little bit more from Yaya or Reddick, but I mean, you have Logan Hall there who had made a couple of plays today, had a near sack, missed it, and I ended up being a sack. I think Vita ended up getting it, but it's going to be a lot more. Go ahead.
And I think that was the play that Reddick got hurt on, if I'm not mistaken.
Might have been.
He
Yeah,
kind of
I'm
like
not
dove
100%
out.
sure.
He dove out and took a gnarly bump to the head.
So I mean, Elijah Roberts probably going to get some more playing time now. So I mean, he could see a bigger role. We don't know about Gaines, right? Like we don't know officially. You have to sort of wait and see on that. But if he is out, I mean, yeah, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that the Bucs could potentially make some sort of move. Now, I think the thing is fans every year sort of try and look at the biggest fish on the market and, oh, get this guy, or like, I don't really think that. I think if anything, it would be for like depth purposes,
Yeah,
like
100%.
when they traded for Steve McClendon a couple years ago, right? Like it'd be something like that. Like they're swapping 5th-round picks or 6th-round picks or something, with a team. So I don't necessarily think it'd be a huge move, but it wouldn't shock me if the trade deadline's still ways away. But yeah, it wouldn't shock me if they ended up doing something, especially if if Gaines is out long term, or because you may just need some bodies, right? Like you may just simply need that, and yeah, I mean, even like you mentioned, even their practice squad's getting decimated by injuries. So, yeah, I mean, it wouldn't shock me, but I don't think anything's imminent or anything. I don't think it'd be a massive name coming back to the Bucs, but we'll have to wait and see.
Got to show some love as well. Make sure we highlight the positive today. I thought Vita Vea had a really good game. He showed up at a couple of different times, but I think that 2 of his biggest plays were like 2 of the big drive killers for Philly. He was just getting after Jalen Hurts. One of them was like a 2nd and 12. I think it was 2nd and 12. And he comes in with a big time sack, and it sets up a 3rd and a mile for Philly. And like that was one of the first real stops I think that the defense had this afternoon. So that was a big time play. And then again, just seeing him hit Jalen Hurts a little bit later on, you always love to see that. So he definitely shows up and plays well against the Eagles. He is a guy who certainly has a little bit more on his plate now as well. We just talked about the lack of reinforcements, losing a Greg Gaines, losing a Kalijah Cansey. I would like to see the Bucs address that position. Again, you don't have to go out and get the biggest name on the market. That's not what it's about. But I think that Jason Light and that front office they're thorough enough to kind of take a look at who would be a decent fit at this time of the year. Just get someone decent. You know what I mean? Don't just go get a guy. Like I think that this team can absolutely benefit. I don't know, from just having somebody decent there. I think it needs to be addressed. I think before.
Yeah,
guys,
I mean, and like I said, they may not. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, also like the NFL trade deadline isn't like it's not like baseball or basketball, or hockey. Like it's the least exciting trade deadline of all the major sports, really, because like not a ton usually happens. Like it's not like you see all these like Brad Marchand got traded from the Bruins to the Panthers. Like that's a for people that don't know hockey or whatever, that's a big deal, like that's a big thing. Um, like that doesn't happen in football. Like that just simply does not happen. Um, so yeah, I mean, we'll have to wait and see. But I think it might depend on how long, if at all, Gaines is out for. So yeah, we'll see. But overall, to sort of cap the things off on the defense, I thought secondary played pretty well. I would like to see a little bit more, the four-man pass rush, and like I said, I think that the difference is though that and the Eagles have done it. Jalen Hurts hasn't thrown an interception yet this season. The Eagles play a pretty clean football game, and that's ultimately, yeah, you can talk about the block punt, but you look at the two things there, where the Bucs have two turnovers in the second half and the Eagles have zero, and I think that's the difference in the game ultimately.
You mentioned the secondary. I'll just briefly also say that I thought Benjamin Morrison stepped up, did a good job today.
I thought he was really good.
When Jamel Dean left the game, he was getting matched up a little bit more against guys like Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown. He had a couple of impact pass breakups, and that's just more of what you love to see. I feel like we say this every year now with some of these draft classes hitting more than others, but it's good to see contributors and constant contributors. I think that these last few weeks with these guys in the lineup, we've seen Jacob Parrish all over the field. We've seen Benjamin Morrison now these last couple of weeks as he's getting acclimated to the lineup, starting to show up all over the field. And the more guys you have like that in the secondary, the more impactful they're going to be as the year goes on. I'm excited to see that moving forward. But let's talk about the Buccaneers offense. And again, as you had mentioned, kind of been the theme of the whole show, tale of two halves. The first half was pulling teeth. And I think that honestly, this could be deceptive to a lot of people. Outside of those two 70-plus yard touchdowns, there weren't too many explosive moments for the Bucs on offense today. But that first half, especially before they started to will their way back into this game, one of the lesser impressive outings for Josh Grizzard so far this season.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the offense in the first half kind of looked like an offense without their best player, or best skill position player. Because it's still Mike Evans, right? Like it still is. I think we talked about the stats last week that whatever, like 3-9 or whatever when Evans misses a game,
Yeah,
and
that's crazy.
now that now they're 3-10. Um, it looked because again, I think the difference is Mike Evans. Yes, maybe he doesn't show up on the stat sheet as a Jamar Chase and have 10 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown and this and that. Have 4 catches, 5 catches for 65 yards. But what he does is he brings that attention, right? He brings that attention to a defense has to account for him. They have to game plan for him. So when he's not there, well, that's just one less guy that the defense has to worry about. And it's a big time guy, right? So you're relying on Emeka Ibuka. You're relying on Chris Godwin, who's playing in his first game in almost a calendar year. You're relying on Sterling Shepard. And those guys, they just, in the first half, they just were not getting open. And when they were getting open, there was tight coverage, but they had 3 drops in the first half. Godwin had 2. Mecca had 1. And against that team, that can't happen. Like that, just those little mental mistakes there, they add up, and it just that sort of thing cannot happen. You're not going to be able to win that type of game by making those mistakes. So, yeah, I mean, and credit to the Eagles corners. I thought the Eagles corners for the most part, for most of this game, honestly, I thought they played a fantastic game. I thought Quinyon Mitchell was good. Got away with some for sure. He got away with some holding calls. Especially the one, the one down the seam. Yes, some. Yeah,
like 5 or 6, man.
The one down the seam on Godwin was obvious. And then I thought Cooper DeJean played really well.
Yeah.
And then but like I said, credit to them, but at the same time, it's like, yeah, like it seemed like especially in the first half, the Bucs were being outcoached on both sides of the ball. It seemed like the chess match was going all towards Philly there, and instead of and I think the Bucs made some adjustments on offense. I think the offense was better in the second half. Obviously, it is like you said, it's aided by two explosive splash plays
Yeah.
that aren't like they're kind of, especially the Bucky one was kind of like a broken down play. Like I don't even think Bucky's like really running like a route there. He's just sort of like improvising. So I mean, good on him for doing it. But yeah, I thought the offense was again, good in the second half, but you can't start that slow against that team, and they did, and weren't really able to run the ball as effective, especially in the first half, which I think hurt, and it does hurt that you're down early, so you have to throw the ball more. But yeah, it just again against that team, you can't start that slow, and ultimately, the pick then. Which I mean, we can talk about the fumble. I don't know if it's a fumble, right? But what I do know is they called it a fumble on the field. And I think if they would have said Bucky Irving was down, I think they would have stuck with that call as well. I just think it was too close, and I don't know. I didn't really think there was a clear thing that he was down. If the rule is that the wrist is not being down, then yeah, like I don't know if there's a clear thing. You could say the shin. I saw some people argue, and this is maybe valid, that like, oh, the wrist hits and then the ball comes out. Wouldn't that be the ground forcing the fumble? Which that could be the case potentially. I could see that argument. So the fumble is what it is, but then the interception that just can't happen. It's that was first down as well. It wasn't like that was third down or fourth down. You're just trying to make a play. That's first down. You have the entire thing right in front of you there, and just it's a very obvious throwaway, right? Just throw the ball away, live to fight another down, and that was honestly like in Baker Mayfield's 2 years, 2 and almost a half years, as Buck starting quarterback, that was like the most like Jameis Winston play he
I
had.
if
Like
you
that was
weren't
very
gonna
much so like that.
Man, I had that line locked and loaded for the last like 10 minutes. If you weren't going to say it, I was. It felt like just, again, something that we have seen before. It happens across the NFL. Just trying to be Superman, trying to make something happen there. And, it was a very impressive series of events that even led to him being able to make that throw. Let's not forget. That wasn't the only play that he was able to, escape the pocket and just do some
Yeah, I
crazy
thought he should
shit
have
with
done a
his
little
legs.
bit more, little bit more with his leg. It
Yeah.
seemed like the I don't know. It seemed like he like was almost like hesitant to run in this game. I don't know. Maybe the biceps. He's maybe a little sore. Doesn't really
Right.
want to get hit a ton. But like it seemed like he was more willing to take off in previous weeks than he was this week. Just seemed a little bit hesitant.
And I think the lack of production in that first half kind of changed my opinion. But at first, I'm like, oh, maybe he's just a little more confident in this offensive line, right? He has a little bit more of a cushion on the left side. And I definitely think it was evident that left side of the line held up a lot better than it has in recent weeks. The
Sure.
right side
Yeah.
definitely showed their weaknesses at times today. But that was kind of my initial thought, but it's going to be interesting to see moving forward. Overall, what did you think of Baker's day today? 22 for 40, 289, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. That interception, again, just trying to do too much there. You can argue that it's Superman, but there were a couple of other times where he had to pull off the improbable and, extend plays. I thought it was an up and down day. I
Mhm.
definitely wouldn't say it was a horrible day. I don't know if I would say it was a great day, but definitely somewhere in between, right?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think he was great or maybe even like good, but like I also don't think he was bad.
Yeah. The
I thought he
interception.
made some plays. Yeah, the interception that's awful. There is no like excuse for that. That can't happen. Right? Like I said, especially it's first down. Like just dude, literally just slide down, take a sack. Like at least the drive keeps going. You can at least, if you don't score a touchdown, you at least kick the field goal, get 3 points out of it. Then you're in a different spot. Then you're trying to go down to the end of the game. There are 2 minutes to win the game with a touchdown instead of potentially tie it. Yeah, just live to fight another day there. But that's what makes him him, right? That's what makes Baker Baker. So you don't want to take it away from him. And really, even like over the course of the last 2 years, it hasn't really burned him a lot. But it's not something you want to start to be a trend, right? You definitely don't want that. So again, I thought he was fine. I thought it looked like an offense without Mike Evans.
Yep.
And they really struggled to separate in the first half. Eagles corners were really good. And I thought that, like I said, he made some plays, forced some throws in the first half, but I think once he settled in the second half and kind of got more control of the game started to come back to him a little bit more, and I thought he played better. But again, yeah, that interception is what people are going to be mostly focusing on, right? Because that's ultimately that you could have say that cost him the game almost, right? And it's not just that play, but I mean, look, you're down inside the 15. Like you could tie the game with a touchdown 2-point conversion there. Like
Yeah.
that cannot happen. So, and I understand the ball was tipped or whatever, but still, like why are you making a throw anyway? Like that's such a low percentage throw that just there's no need for it. So, yeah, like I said, I thought he wasn't good, but he wasn't bad. He wasn't the reason that they lost the game, but also there are things he could have done better that would have maybe had them win this game.
Some of the other top performers on offense today. I'm curious the last time this has happened. Bucky Irving led the Bucs in both rushing and receiving today. I don't know the last player. I'm probably going to hear that it was like Jaquiz Rogers or Bobby Rainier or something. Those are my two guesses as of right now. But I'm curious the last player to have done that. 15 carries, 63 yards, no touchdown for Bucky Irving, but he makes up for it in the pass game. 5 receptions, 102, and a touchdown. A big 72-yard touchdown for Bucky Irving. And that is tied with Jaquiz Rogers with the most receiving yards by a Buccaneers running back in a single afternoon. So big day for Bucky. I thought really an even bigger day for Emeka Egbuka, to be completely honest with you. 4 receptions for 101 yards. He does have that 77-yard touchdown. And I know that there are some statistics out there that are going to show you that, Quinyon Mitchell only held him to 2 catches and his other targets were in tight windows, blah, 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 blah. Quinyon Mitchell held the shit out of Emeka Egbuka all afternoon, and they just refused to see it, to be completely honest with you. But I thought in an offense without Mike Evans, Emeka Egbuka stepping up and making some of the plays that he did today. Just another feather in the cap for him, if you will. I think he's putting together a more than fine rookie campaign, regardless of maybe some of the miscues today.
Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about and I'm not saying he's going to have a career like this guy because, this guy is this guy, but like right now through the first 4 games, like Amuka's been way more explosive in his rookie season than, Evans was back in 2014.
Yeah.
Like, Evans was good. Like, I'm not saying he was bad, but like he kind of got better as the year went on. And like he wasn't like the clutch touchdowns, the big long plays, like he had the one-handed grab. Like Evans kind of wasn't doing that stuff like in like his rookie season. So I'm not saying Emeka Egbuka is going to be better than Mike Evans. Mike Evans is 10 years on him. But, if Emeka Egbuka can do that for 10 years, then maybe. but like, he's been really good. And, I mean, just an unbelievable throw. Both the touchdowns were great throws. The fearlessness for sure. That was like the good side, like Jameis Winston almost, where like, that throw was in such a tight window. And I don't know how that ball is not even tipped even a little bit just to make Egbuka maybe drop the ball or something. It was just, perfectly placed. So yeah, he was really good. And, outside of the one drop that he had where like, it was tight coverage, but he probably needs to catch it. Other than that, you can't really complain much.
I think one more note here on the offense, and this goes back to Josh Grizzard. I know that we had said it wasn't his best outing, but I can appreciate and respect the creativity. We saw today 6 different Tampa Bay Buccaneers players get a carry in this game. Emeka Egbuka
how about the Wildcat?
Dude, we were watching it happen in real time, and I'm watching Baker just take a step back. Bucky steps in front of him, and I'm like, they're about to snap it to Bucky Irving. And it got like 8 yards.
Yeah.
That was maybe the most hype moment of the entire after. Well, I mean, the 70+ yard touchdowns were certainly there too. But that was
the longest field goal in Bucs history. Might have been.
That may have been. We'll get to that here in a minute, man. But that was just that in itself felt like such a moment in time. Watching Baker just take a huge step back, Bucky step right back into place, and I'm like, oh my god. That was
and even more shocking is that it worked.
I know. Sterling Shepard got a carry as well.
Yeah. And Abuka had the end around, which didn't work.
Yeah.
But they ended up doing that on 3rd and 1. Didn't work. Then they ended up going for 4th and 1. Got it. It's Ed in the chat says, Emeka Abuka anytime touchdown might be the new move, Evan. Hey, it did. We are finally above 500. So 3-1. I'm betting the Bucs this week. And the one prop we didn't get was actually the A.J. Brown one. He didn't have 5 catches. So the Bucs did a really good job of blanketing him today.
Don't forget Tez Johnson as well got a carry. 1 carry for 5 yards. Kind of got spun up around in the air when he got hit. But again, I just think that's
Tez Johnson. I think he got his first NFL catch on the first play today.
He sure did. Had 1 reception for 8 yards. He was in the game early, and that was cool to see him get some consistent targets. Hope to see that build. Man, we say all this good stuff about the offense, and I'm very excited about moving forward some of these matchups. But at this point, I'm just counting down the days till Mike Evans. If this is what it's going to be like every week.
Yeah. And look, not to look ahead completely to next week because we have a full, week of coverage. But you're playing a tough Seattle defense on the road next week, and Mike Evans ain't going to be back. The earliest he's going to be back is week 6 against San Francisco. That's probably the absolute earliest. He's not coming back next week. So they're going to have to do it again, and hopefully they're able to figure out some things. Hopefully they saw some things that they can maybe improve upon. We'll have to wait and see. But it's just, it makes a difference, right? It's definitely, his presence is, definitely missed. And I want to talk about Chris Godwin and Tristan Wirfs for a second. I thought Wirfs looked good. Wasn't but it's also, without watching film right now, it's hard to be like, oh my god, this offensive line played, unless you're really bad. I thought Wirfs played fine, and Godwin I thought played fine. It looked like a dude who hadn't played football in almost a year, kind of. At times, like I said, he had 2 drops, especially that one. Whereas that deep ball, Quinyon Mitchell's on him again. It's tight coverage, but you probably need against this team. In the playoffs, you got to catch those plays, right? Those plays you have to have them. So I'm not really worried about Godwin. I thought he looked decent today. I think he'll the more he plays, I feel like the better for both of them, for Godwin and Wirfs. The more they play, I think that the better they're going to look. So I'm not overly concerned there. So other than that, I thought the offense again, the entire team, you could say, was a tale of 2 halves. The offense just started too slow. Just simply too slow against a really good football team, and unfortunately, you dug yourself too big of a hole.
3 receptions, 26 yards for Chris Godwin Jr. in his return to the Buccaneers. It was evident that they wanted to target him. They had some things drawn up for him, and to be honest with you, I think that those are, some of the drops today, some of the tight coverage, I think that those are plays that he's going to make as he continues to get healthier. 6, 7, 8 weeks from now, I think he's already going to have a catalog of those unbelievable catches that he tends to make. We got our first caller of the show. I'm actually excited because I thought everybody was hiding. The Bucs lose their first game of the season. Everybody goes back under their rocks and doesn't want to talk about them. But from the 661, our first caller of the day. Who is this?
This is Deontay, fellas. How's it going?
Deontay, how you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I got to get in that super chat and get you guys some. I haven't been in the. It's my first game of the year. I've been able to catch you guys. I've been a little busy, but other than that, man, everything is good.
We appreciate
you being here.
Yeah, man. So how you feeling? I mean that loss kind of left me speechless as well. But what are your overall thoughts about the 3-1 Bucs right now?
My chin is still head high being a Bucs fan. It's not a flight to lose to the reigning defending champions, even at home when they didn't get away with a lot of stuff today. I mean, my God, if our special teams give up another block kick, or I might lose my mind. This might be the worst special team the Bucs have had, and I can remember, man. It's bad. like alarmingly bad. But outside of that, we moved the ball well. We scored the ball without Mike out there, without Gedeke out there. We pretty much kept our offense in check in that second half. Outside of that Bucky turnover that gave them good field, and then they scored in the red zone. They really didn't do anything in the second half. So I could lean my hat on that. I got to give Todd credit for his second half adjustment. So I'm really not terribly mad at this game. I just wish we came out on top.
I agree. I think that the second half adjustments from this defense is one of the things that's going to get overlooked because everybody always wants to very quickly jump on the fire Todd Bowles train. Oh, this team wasn't prepared because they came out flat in the first half. And, like, that can be true. But I think the adjustments that were made and the fact that they crawled themselves back into this game after constantly making those self-inflicted mistakes, it felt like, again, Evan, you brought it up already, but that Denver game last year, after that first half, it was over. And today was far different against a far better opponent. It's not like it was a rookie quarterback and a young upstart defense. This is, as you had mentioned, the defending Super Bowl champs here, Evan.
Yeah, no, for sure. And yeah, again, it's too slow of a start, right? And but I do think that says something that they could have very easily, especially with the injuries they have, right? Like I had even thought it as well. It's like at some point I was like, if they just come out of here like healthy, like is it the worst thing in the world to just like, all right, well, that game didn't go well, whatever, as long as you don't sustain, any new injuries, long term, think about the long game kind of, right? So, to be able to battle back and almost tie the game, was definitely something. And I think it says, a lot to their fight and their will to, not really quit.
What you got, my friend? Final thoughts?
Final thoughts? I don't know if there was any if the Bucs got out of there with everybody healthy that started the game. I haven't seen anything reported. I don't know if anybody got nicked up or anything. But
there's a couple guys that are banged up, but
I think Greg Gaines and Jamel Dean are probably the biggest two to monitor. Hassan Reddick seems like it may be a week-to-week thing. And outside of that, I think a lot of the guys who ended up getting hurt came back into the game at some point. Like Bucky Irving left and came back. I think Tyke Smith left and came back. So we'll see what happens. But I think Greg Gaines and Jamel Dean those are my two biggest worries this week. We'll keep an eye on that.
Okay, they're probably looking like they're doubtful to go make sure. Yeah, but even if they don't play, I think we still have the depth, and that's what I was saying. Our final starts were the depth pieces and Benjamin Morrison and Jacob Parrish. Man, they have been awesome these first 4 games of the season, man. Well, I know Benjamin had his first playing time last week. He's dealing with an injury, but Parrish and Morrison, man, the future is bright for those guys, man. In this game, they blitz, they tackle, they cover well. I'm very excited to see these guys continue playing, especially for the Buccaneers.
I agree. I agree. I think some of these young players stepping up are going to be guys that, really, I think a lot of this roster is going to be the next wave of, dare I say, superstars. That might be a loaded phrase to use there, but like we watch Emeka Egbuka play, and it's hard to not see him being really good for a really long time. So hopefully that's the case with Jacob Parrish and Benjamin Morrison. But we're going to let you go, get to some more calls here, my friend. We appreciate you calling in. We'll talk to you soon. Go Bucs.
All right. Go Bucs, guys.
As always, feel free to call in. We would love to hear from you before we start to wrap up here. 305-224-1968, the meeting ID on your screen, 747-973-0150.
Really quick,
Yep.
I want to get to our next point here before we wrap things up. Can we stop being worried about Chase McLaughlin now? Is that okay? Or, not only a 65-yarder, but a 58-yarder that gets it to, a one-score game. I think he's okay. I think it's fine.
What a moment in history. I mean, again, it was one of those things where, like, we all kind of laughed at the thought of, especially after such a demoralizing first half. Like, everybody was out of gas. They trot out Chase McLaughlin from the midfield logo, and we all start looking around, and they're like, are they really going to kick this right now? Like, are you kidding me? And then we were like, how long was Matt Bryant's kick? And so we looked it up, and it was 62 yards.
Against the Eagles.
Against the Eagles to win it. And there it is, man, from 65, the longest field goal in Tampa Bay Buccaneers history. The
longest outdoor field goal.
Yeah,
the record was in a dome. So
yeah, the longest outdoor field goal in NFL history and the second longest field goal in NFL history, but longest kick in Buccaneers history in the 50th season from Money Mac. I don't think he can
just like Bill mentions, he's back to that nickname. He's earned it.
He can't be any more back than he is right now. Money Mac is he's back on the good side.
Yeah, no, for sure. That was definitely a bright spot. Him, and obviously, we've talked a lot, right, negatively about special teams and stuff today, and rightfully so, right? Like there's an issue there. But they had Chase McLaughlin, and Cam Johnson really had a nice day. With punt returns there. Nearly broke, like he's getting close. Like he is. He's getting close to returning one for a touchdown one of these times. And it's especially in the second half, it seemed like the Bucs almost every time were starting their drives near the 50-yard line at least. So yeah, he definitely did a good job. And I think it's probably definitely his best game of his career. So yeah, I mean those are two positives for special teams there. It wasn't all completely negative there.
Yeah, he even had a decent return called back on a penalty, so you hate to see that. But I think one of the most efficient return games overall that we have seen for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in a long time. So I hope that he can keep that momentum rolling. It really does seem like he's getting better and better every week, and I think that hopefully one of these weeks he's going to break one. Let's get to our next caller here from the 626.
He's gonna break
I
one.
think I know, but who's this?
Our next caller.
What's up, guys? It's Richard T from the West Coast.
West Coast. How are we feeling, Richard T?
Dude, kind of feel a little beat up, man. Dang, those Eagles they were whooping our ass that first half. But I'm proud of the team. They hunkered down on defense. The offense fought back, threw some really good punches, man. The right and the left. That Ibuka touchdown was amazing. Holy crap! The needle through two different defenders.
Yeah.
Considering, as you guys brought up, that the coverage was super sticky with the Eagles. Look, guys, at the end of the day, you just have to tip your cap to the better team, right? The Eagles were just the better team today. They were the healthier team, and it just felt like they wanted this more than the Bucs did. And you know what? I feel like it's forgivable for the team. We're not 100%. We don't even have our best player on offense with Mike Evans there. Luke Gedicke's out. We even sustained more injuries. And versus Philly, who's hardly beat up. They're missing Nolan Smith. Okay, but they're pretty deep. And for us to come back and make it a game, and really you just think of two plays that went wrong that could have swung in the Bucs' favor. And that was really the difference. So, Bucs fans, hang your heads up high, man. We fought a good fight. We didn't get the W, but coming out of September, 3-1, that's pretty good. Wouldn't you guys say?
Yeah, I think that a lot of people looked at what the Bucs were going to be facing over these first 4 weeks, and especially at this stretch that they have coming up. I mean, these are character-building games for the Bucs over the next 2 or 3 weeks here. You're facing some tough teams, but I think with that primetime game, division game, people looked at the Jets, and I guess the only thing we really got superstitious about was the uniforms. But, I don't think many people picked them to be 3-0 to start the year. So
I
at
did.
3,
Hey.
Well, yeah, you did. Yeah, I guess you did. But
Yeah,
there's not very-
apparently, I freaking hate the team. So.
There's not very many. There's not very many people like you, Evan.
I know. Oh, I know that.
and Rhett's usually the optimistic one.
I know. See?
Absolutely. No,
Oh,
I
how
think
the tables have turned.
I think that there is absolutely no shame in a 3-1 start, especially with the state of the NFC right now. The Eagles are top tier. We knew that coming into the season. When you're a defending Super Bowl champion, there's definitely a target on your back. And I think that, one of the things, again, that's maybe going to get overlooked here, but when people start talking about this game and they start talking about coaching, and they start talking specifically about Todd Bowles, I look at that second half comeback, and I don't know exactly what was said in the locker room at halftime. Apparently, it was something led by Levante David, basically explaining that they're just too damn good to be playing as slow as they were in that first half. But I feel like a lot of that also, to get your team to buy in like that, like that's got to at least be a team that somewhat likes their head coach, right? Like it's not.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know.
100%.
I think a lot of credit does go to Todd Bowles for that second half, especially. Yes, we will address the special teams mistakes. We will hopefully make some kind of change there moving forward, because it seemed like Sirianni knew something was going to be happening there on the block punt. So hopefully that's not an ongoing issue here with teams figuring out a flaw that the Bucs have punting the ball away. But I do think Todd Bowles deserves some credit for that second half comeback, because those guys bought in and they continue to buy in. And this is just an example of one of those games that they never felt like they were out of it, and they made it entertaining.
Yeah, and the only reason why Philly was able to score a second half is because of that supposedly Bucky fumble, right? So other than that, like, defense really, they hunkered down. I do got to say, though, that it's 4 games now, and the team's only had 2 turnovers on defense. I don't like that, especially all the chatter on the off season about, and especially with Bowles saying that, like, he wants ball hawks, get the ball.
Yep.
It was nice last week, but we got to do it consistently, and 2 turnovers in 4 games, I feel that's unacceptable, especially in an organization who's, historically known for creating turnovers, historically known for having strong defenses. We even have a defense named after the whole city in Tampa too.
Yeah.
So going forward, that's a little concerning, and just the collection of injuries still going up, man. That's it just feels like, okay, we're gonna go to Seattle. Who's gonna go down now? Like, whose turn is it?
Yeah.
I hate feeling like that. I do, because of it's stressful. It's stressful as fans to think that one of your team members or one of the key players is gonna go down. You just don't know who. It feels like Squid Games, right? Someone's gonna go down, dude, and it sucks. But I just feel like I just hope that's not gonna be what's gonna be, the reason why we can't go forward in the playoffs or whatever. I just hope that that's not the reason, but it is. Those are my 2 concerns going forward for the rest of the season, just turnovers and health. But other than that, man, I'm still proud of this team, dude. We fought hard. Levante David, that speech, I wish we could all hear, but it's not the first time he's been the emotional leader, and he's actually pretty known for that. So if that's going to be a turning point, let it be. Let's go.
Yeah, if there's anybody I trust in that locker room to anchor a turnaround like that, it's going to be Levante David. Now, arguably an afternoon for him that wasn't his best, but he definitely serves a role. He is a presence in the locker room, 110%. He deserves his flowers, man. It is tough to see, and it is tough to talk about week in and week out. It hasn't been a great start to the season for all 54.
Yeah, well, he's definitely not going to be the reason why the team is losing. So no matter what happens, Levante is going to, when he calls it quits, it'll be on his own terms. I'm glad the Bucs are going to let him do that.
Very much agree with you, Richard. We appreciate you calling in, my friend. Final thoughts here.
Yeah, man. No, man, that's it. I think I brought up everything I wanted to discuss. It's fun talking Bucs with people down here, and glad I could call into your show. win, lose, or draw, always go Bucs.
We appreciate you, Richard. Go Bucks. We'll talk to you soon, my man.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing before we wrap, the turnover thing is a concern for me.
Yeah.
I mean, and really, yeah, they've had 2 turnovers, but 3 out of the 4 games, they haven't had any. So, and like, yeah, they got somewhat close today. Parrish had the one where he almost had it, but like a lot of times, it's like they're not even getting close. Like, it's not like, man, they're about to break through. So that's definitely something they're gonna need to, find a way to do because consistently asking your defense to just stop teams and not give your offense some short fields, some momentum, it's not a recipe that's going to be able to hold up for 17 games. And especially, if you make the postseason, like you're definitely, I mean, obviously teams are going to try and limit turnovers, and turnovers are even more magnified in the postseason, but the best defenses make those plays in the postseason, right? Like, do we think like the Bucs don't beat the Saints in the 2020 divisional round if they don't have the turnovers that they do? Like, the Bucs don't win the game.
Right.
So, like, the Bucs, so that they don't win the Super Bowl. Like, that's what happens. So you need to find a way to be able to take the ball away. And so far, they haven't really done that.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see, we saw it today, how impactful a takeaway can be at the right time for a defense. It completely energizes the team, and it's arguably the most impactful play you can make.
Yeah, but the Eagles' 2 turnovers were potentially, and I say potentially because we don't know if the Bucs would have scored a touchdown or not on that interception, but potentially a 14-point swing.
Yeah.
It took away 7 points for the Buccaneers, and the Bucky Irving fumble gave 7 points to the Eagles.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal. It really was. I think that there are.
Some of it was brutal.
I mean, it was frustrating. It was no doubt frustrating. It felt like one of the more frustrating games in a long time, considering how close they were to making that comeback, and then those self-inflicted mistakes bite again. Right? If you don't throw that interception, there's no guarantee they were going to score there. But it truly felt like if they could have just been able to take care of the ball down the stretch, I thought they were going to pull it off, and I think a lot of people definitely thought they were going to pull it off because this is a team that I would not have been in the least bit surprised if they found a way to win that game, and I guess that's a good feeling, right? Again, that's what everybody's been talking about all day today, and I think it's something that we can carry into the week ahead. The Buccaneers are certainly a fighter within the NFC. They may not be the cream of the crop, but I also have a feeling this may not be the last time they play Philly this 2025 NFL season. So something to monitor moving forward, but got to stay healthy, got to get healthy as well, and get your guys back, go out there, just continue to build. The Bucs are 3-1, Evan, and with that being said, I think that's just about going to do it for tonight's post-game episode of the Cannon Fire Podcast. Had a later start than usual, but I'm glad that we were able to make it out for a game. Although I might just stop going to games altogether. I mean, I had a feeling.
It usually doesn't go well.
It hasn't gone well in a while.
Yeah.
It really has not. I think that's 1-5 now over the last 6 games.
Yep.
Not ideal. Not ideal. So I'm going to have to.
Whenever Rhett's in the building, the Bucs just know, and they're like,
They don't even show up.
Yeah.
They don't even show up to the third quarter.
It could have been a lot worse. They could have shown no fight at all, and yeah.
No, they certainly made it an entertaining game, and that's the least that we can ask for. Follow our show on social media, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. All of those are Cannon Fire Podcast. Best place to go for updates on the show, and of course, Buccaneer news as it happens. And I promise I will be a little bit more active on the Cannon Fire Instagram moving forward. I haven't been doing a good job of that, so. You can follow my co-host Evan on Instagram at Bucs_Daily. You can also find him on Twitter at EvanNFL, and you can check out his written work at BucsNation.com. What have you got on the docket this week?
Yeah, so obviously going to have, social media reactions, a lot of stuff. I mean, first loss of the season, so how are people going to be handling that and everything? So going to be having that on BucsNation.com, and here on the Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel. If you're listening on audio, we appreciate you listening on audio. But if you do want a little bit more content just throughout the week, stay tuned to the Cannon Fire Podcast YouTube channel. We're posting stuff almost every day. So yeah, we definitely have a lot of content. Gonna be having the best and the worst from this game out, and then also later in the week gonna be having betting the Bucs yet again. Like I said, we finally, I believe, get above 500, and then also players to watch for the following game against Seattle, which could be flexed.
That's
Could
going
be
to be
flexed because
interesting.
apparently with Seattle Mariners making the playoffs,
Nobody expected it.
Yeah, I guess not.
Nobody
Um,
accommodated for Seattle making the postseason. So now,
it's not even like it's not going to be like flex of Sunday Night Football or anything. It just might start like they said, like 90 minutes later or something, maybe. So
like a 5:30 kickoff.
it would be kind of wacky. So yeah, it would be a little weird. And then the Bucs obviously wearing the 76 uniforms next week as well. So yeah, we have a lot of stuff out here on the Campfire Podcast YouTube channel as well. So check that stuff out.
The expansion bowl, ladies and gentlemen, it could be flexed, but we will
true.
find out. Ed in the live chat, thank you to the Cannon Fire crew, everybody who stepped up tonight and hung out with us. Richard T for the call in, Edwin Hernandez, Tusk, Bill Camporis. It's Ed says, Red, are you still going to the game next week? Unfortunately, Ed, I don't think I'm going to be able to swing it. This was going to be my weekend to try and book some travel accommodations, and I don't think the timing's going to work out this week, especially with the game being flexed now, because if I'm, traveling to Seattle on a Sunday afternoon, I need every minute that I can on the way back, and I just don't think it's going to, I don't think it's going to come together for us this year.
Well, yeah, and I mean, you actually want the Bucs to win, so.
Yeah, no kidding. After this week, I think I've certainly learned my lesson. Last but not least, you can find myself Instagram and Twitter at Rhettakus, Rhettakus. If you follow me, I will follow you back. And please check out the Rondé Barber Show. We have got new episodes every single Wednesday. You can find it on YouTube and any podcast platform. Really cool stuff. So that is it for today's post-game show. We will talk to you later on this week as we monitor some of those injuries and more Tampa Bay Buccaneers headlines. I'm your host, Rhett Matthew, signing off from my co-host, Evan Wanish. We will see you in the next one. Until then, and as always, thank you for listening, and go Bucs.